Do you require any graphic design work done? A North London agency full of Gooners. Oh, and one lonely Watford fan. We'll be happy to help. Go to www.stonecreativedesign.com and mention Gooner Ramble for a 10% discount on your first project.
Hello and welcome to the Gooner Ramble podcast, hot on the heels of a emphatic 4-1 victory over Basel. Got my regulars, Clive and Was back from Gran Canaria. How you doing, Was? You alright, mate? Suntanned and everything?
All tanned up, mate, and raring to go.
Has the cold hit you, though?
The cold has well and truly hit me. I've had to ditch the shorts, back in long sleeves, long trousers, and I'm not having a beer every day by the pool, which is horrible. But I must say, you boys done some great pods while I was away, and it kept me well entertained.
Good stuff. And Mr. Clive, you're right, sir?
Yep, I'm tanned, but I ain't been nowhere, but let's see how we go.
Before I start, I really want to just cover a couple of incidents that happened earlier on Wednesday. First of all, the Pakistani air crash that happened in the morning. All 45 people died, and obviously this evening we got news from from Akil, should I say, sorry, who's trying to make his way back from Basel, and apparently there was an aircraft disaster over there. I think did he say was that the actual aircraft flew over theirs or something? It flew directly over his one, which is standing on the runway or something like that. And
yeah, I'm not too sure. Apparently, all from what I've read is that it exploded upon landing. It was a light aircraft, so I think there's apparently a few fatalities. So it's horrible news, isn't it?
Indeed. I just hope that condolences go out to families in Pakistan and over in Basel, and hopefully our boys get home safely, whether it be tonight or tomorrow. But on to more happier discussions. The 4-1 victory over Basel. Some really good performances last night. I'm sure you Clive had your favourites, and we'll go through that. I want to discuss first of all what you made of Lucas Perez's performance last night. I mean, not many people. If you rewind it back 7 days, you look at the League Cup performance. I mean, everybody wanted him out of the club. They said he wasn't worth it. He's not fit to wear the shirt and blah blah blah.
I didn't want him out.
Should I? Okay. Some people said on social media they didn't want him in the club. He wasn't fit to wear the shirt. Blah blah blah. He's not quick. He's not this. He's not that. Roll on 7 days, scores a really good hat trick. I mean, you can tell as Wenger said, he smells goals. He's a goal sniffer. He looked really good yesterday. I want to start with you. What did you make of his performance? And how do you think that affects things going forward?
I found his performance really interesting, to be honest with you, G, because he scored his 3 goals, and I think you could tell. I mean, fair play to him. He's playing out on the right wing. He's been out on the left. He's been up front, and he seems like he can sort of play anywhere. And in every position he's in, he looks like he can get goals. And I just thought, especially the first half, I thought he took a while to get into his stride. The link-up play weren't quite there, and we were very, very clinical. But I thought we could have been a lot better in sort of on the ball in the final third in the first half. And I'm not saying he played badly at all. He was doing all the right things, but he just looked a tad rusty, which is completely understandable. He's still feeling his way in, and he's had minutes here and there, and he's not really had a run of games. But yet again, we looked at Ox at West Ham and what he come in and done, and we looked at players like Iwobi come in, and Perez is one of them. And there's going to be a lot of time for him, and January is a big period for Arsenal, and there's going to be tired legs in his squad, and Perez has barely run. He's barely had a run yet, and he's no mug. Do you know what I mean? He scored a lot of goals last season, and you can, like you said, I like the term goal sniffer. Makes me laugh, but he's just that kind of guy that is hungry to put the ball in the net. And I like the fact he's got sort of a ruthless streak. I mean, he's scoring hat-tricks. He ain't running around doing all these stupid bollock celebrations. He's just staring. Do you know what I mean? He's just staring. He's
This
just
is what I do, isn't it? It's like what I do.
This is what I do. Yeah, don't pleasure me. This is what I do. Don't worry about me. You do your game. This is what I do. Put the ball in the net. And obviously two of them were fairly simple finishes, but he got himself in great areas. And the other one, he sort of not mishit it, but he didn't catch it clean with his right peg, and it ain't his strongest foot, but he got good connection and he found the corner. And they're strikers' goals, and he's been playing out on the right wing. And with regards to what I feel going forward, I mean, personally, I wouldn't be going, bloody hell, he scored that, right, that's it, got to start every week, because it ain't going to be like that. And Theo so far has chipped in massively. We saw the Ox put in a very good performance, and Perez has proved that he can be an auxiliary man across all three of the front three positions. And we've also got people like Danny Welbeck coming back in as well. So we can't marry ourselves to saying this guy has to start every week. And I'm very pleased for Perez. And look, if you can contribute 3 goals in a Champions League game away from home without even really playing to what I feel is your full ability, then what can you say for a guy that ain't played it week in, week out? Then fantastic. And I like the guy. I like him. At first, I had my reservations, and then I thought after Forest, when he scored that goal, I could see something different in him. And he seems to be that he gets one, then the ball starts rolling, and he'll get more, and he's more confident. His touches are more confident. His passing's more clinical, and he just seems like a confident player. And let's hope that when he keeps coming into the team, he can have this impact, because like you said, the League Cup game, you can't judge any individual on that. It was a misfit team. It was 11 individuals that had just been thrown together. And this week we saw him in with Ozil, in with Sanchez, and he scored 3 goals. So well done to Lucas Perez.
Too, talking about confidence, the way he took the third goal, the hat-trick goal, was real confidence, wasn't it? I mean, it was, first time on his right peg, bang, in the bottom corner of the net. Thank you and good night, wasn't it? So you're right. I mean, he does seem to be a guy that kind of builds on confidence. He gets one, he gets two, and he just becomes this dead-eye marksman. Clive, I want to bring you in. What did you make of his performance out on the right, the goals he scored, and the way he, I suppose, interacted with his fellow players last night?
All right, so I'll tell you what I see. Right, so Woz was right. Early in the game, he tried some around the corner touches that weren't quite accurate, but I don't know if it's the coach you mean, right? But I always look for intent. So I look for intent and say, okay, does he want to combine? Is he holding it too long? Is he stopping the ball, creating targets, people to hit him? No, he's talking the right language. It's not quite coming off. Then it starts to come off. And I think we've been, what the Reading guy did to him, I think we've been robbed of a player that was just getting up to speed, and we really took out at a critical period. But if you look at the first goal, okay, the tapping was great, but if you watch that goal, he made 3 runs on that goal. He made one round the corner, he made one to underlap the support. When it wasn't coming, he ran around it and then got in on the back post. And so that movement makes the tapping. And so people say, it's an easy tapping. But he's made 3 runs to get into that space. And that tells me that it's not just about confidence. He's a wise footballer, right? He sees things early. And he smells goals, right? He smells where his impact will be. And if anything, the third goal, they always say that in football you should sort of look at the possibilities, look for the worst that can happen, think that the defender's going to miss it, gamble in behind. And he gambled in behind, and he appeared out of nowhere on the screen, and he's run in and he's done the right thing. He's aimed for side netting, and he's found it, right? So when you look for things like the shots he's had, they're all hitting target. This is a wise, worldly footballer. This is a proper footballer. And when I look around at, say, what Chelsea have got in behind Costa, they've got Batshuayi. We've not seen him. He gets 2 minutes at the end of games. You look at Liverpool, they've got players like Origi. He does okay. You look at Spurs, they've got like Janssen. I compare, these are the players we got to sort of compare him to. The Manchester United boys, Rashford and Martial, in different phases of confidence and different phases of being trusted. All right. And at City, they got Iheanacho. And we've got Giroud, Welbeck, Lucas, Walcott. And you start to look at that and think, wow, this is pretty good, right? So we may be a bit Arsenal-eyed, but I do think these players are really, really important, as was alluded to. Alexis Sanchez, no matter how great he is, he's not going to sustain this all the way through till May. So we've got to be looking at these guys and say, okay, when your moment comes, can you do it? So for me, one of the biggest highlights last night was watching him play and watching him do it, watching him play the Arsenal way. He'd only his second game back from injury, where he's nowhere near fit enough yet. And he looked a lot quicker to me as well. I was talking to Jane offline, and we were worrying about his pace. But actually, his pace was really good. He was really industrious. He worked back really well. I was comparing him to Ozil on the other side. I thought he worked back a lot more deeper. And I thought, wow, that was a really encouraging performance against a decent team. And this isn't Reading. This is a decent team that had something to play for, right? And he delivered. So I thought it was excellent.
Were you worried about the team? I mean, I saw one of your tweets today, pre-game, saying about, an hour before the team sheet comes out, this is the crazy hour when people start to fret.
Yeah, that one went down. I'll tell you. But it's true, right? And I think sometimes what we do, again, like I manage a team, and I say to the team, don't worry about the team that starts. It's the team that finishes. And at West Ham, I think the team that finished broke the game open, and the team that started allowed the game to be broken open. And sometimes we got to realise that most top games are won or decided quite late on, unless you start strong, right? So I think sometimes we put a lot of emphasis on the start 11 because we're fans and we care, and we care about the balance or the rest of it. But I do think there's a lot to be said for how games are finished and how you use your bench. And I think it's, I've just been watching Dortmund play Real Madrid. And Tuchel got the draw off the bench. He brought on that Emre Moore, and he brought on Royce, and they ran Madrid to distraction. They unsettled Marseille. They unsettled them across the back. They put the pressure on. They pressed out the pitch, and they got their breakaway goal, and it was beautiful, right? So, football's changing. It really is changing, in my opinion, and I think it's becoming, far more. This might sound obvious, right? But football of 2-3 years ago just doesn't exist anymore. It's becoming far more analytical. It's been played in different areas. It's been judged differently. It's been measured differently. And I think it's only gonna keep going this way.
Clive makes an interesting point about, the start and the finish. Obviously, we talk about fast start, starting fast and getting that early goal and opening the opposition up so that we can, we hit them on the counter or play through them or whatever. And then there's obviously the, if games are tight, what Wenger does in terms of in-game substitutions to affect a game late on so that we're stronger, more powerful, more durable, and we can, score that late goal. So there are two different ways of looking at football, I suppose, and I suppose it's a case of striking that balance, getting it right?
Spot on, mate, and I'm as guilty as anyone about that power hour. I always am, always will be. It's just, as a fan, everyone's got their conceptions, and like Clive said, it is often about the side that finishes the game, not the side that necessarily starts it. But you just, as a fan, you know what you want to see, and you know what you think you're going to see, and when you see the team sheet and you've got your reservations about things, you're going to be a bit wound up sometimes, but you're always wrong, and that's why you're a fan. But 100%. You look at the squad. I don't think it's just bringing on fresh legs and bringing on players in the right areas. I think it's the type of players we can bring into games now as well.
Yeah.
We can switch formations and switch approach in just like that. And someone like Olivier Giroud, 6'4", if we've been trying to play the ball through, playing our nice tight passing, five-a-side football for the whole game, and we ain't broken down, then we have got wingers. We can bring on one winger and Olivier Giroud and just say to that winger, I want you to stretch the game, just stay wide, hit the byline, cross the ball. We've got 6'4" geezer in there who just loves to score headers. And then,
my funny feeling was we might need that against Stoke.
Exactly, mate.
It's going to be today. I just got the feeling.
it's one of those, and it's not just about making. That's why Wenger's job is so important, because we talk about squad rotation, we talk about looking after players, making sure people don't get injured. But there will be another probably 10 times this season where we're in games and you look to Wenger and he's got to make that decision. He's got to choose the right minute and he's got to choose the right player at the right moment, and that is why he's going to be earning 8 million a year or whatever he does, because they're key moments in games. And like Clive said, a lot of the top level games, especially games like Everton away, places like City, we're going to go there, and that could be tight till the 80th minute. But we have got, for once, for the first time in a long time, I can look for our bench and think in every position, if we've got to bring people on, shore it up, if we've got to change things up in midfield, a different approach, if we've got a big striker on there, a small striker, winger, we got everything. So
I got to say, like, I mean, me and you both said this at the start of the season, right? We were worried when we had a deep squad, no injuries. We were worried that Wenger's, not one of his weaknesses is rotation, right? And from previous years, but maybe we're going to have to doff our cap, right? Because I think in recent weeks, his ability to rotate, we may not have understood it, but the results we've been getting, the fact we've not been beaten since August, we got to say, actually, he's getting it right? We're getting less soft muscle tissue injuries. We got players that look fresh. We got players who've done pre-season in the middle of the season. And there was a moment last night when we were winning and they flashed to the bench, and we got Giroud, Mustafi and El Neni warming up, looking keen to come on. And I'm looking at Mustafi, a centre back, 30 plus million, who's not lost a game yet. And he's just jogging down the sideline while we got a 20-year-old kid that cost 2 million playing like a dream. And I'm thinking, just think where we were when we played Dinamo Zagreb a year or so ago. Our centre forward getting upset, getting sent off. We were so dependent upon him because we had no one else. We had our defence was a bit shaky. We lose the game. Bad discipline. It's just like, I just think we've moved on so much, from a year ago. And just that flash, just seeing Mustafi run down the sideline looking like an Adonis, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, he's not even going to get on. Do you know what I mean? And that tells you that we're doing something right. And one of the things you've got to try to do when you're building a squad, the gap between your best player and your worst player, if you can make that smaller, you've got a chance to win things. And I've got to say, that's happening right in front of our eyes. We've got very few dead bodies that are falling off a cliff, which means all the things we want to see around rotation and freshness, they're starting to come to fruition.
I always remember Alex Ferguson saying it's not just the superstars that win you the Champions League championships, it's your squad players, people like, I remember him referring to John O'Shea's and those good Darren Fletcher's, Wes Brown, and those kind of, the unheralded players. And, he was talking about, people might see them as dead wood, as dross, but actually someone like Ferguson and his coaches could see the value in bringing those kind of players on, the unsung and unheralded players. And one of the players I want to talk about really is Kieran Gibbs, and how we've sort of retained width in a different kind of way to the sort of orthodox wingers. We've lost Hector Bellerin for the last, is it 3 or 4 games? I think it's been. And at first it really did kind of, it did kind of, sort of like, it was a contributing effect to how we kind of didn't really function properly. But now we're seeing Nacho taking up the mantle like he did on Saturday, getting down the left, and Gibbs the other night against Basel also doing the same. And it's a different kind of retention of Wiz, isn't it, Was? So there's more than one way to skin a cat is what I'm trying to say. And people like Gibbs, unheralded, unsung, squad player, not everyone's first choice, but the gap between him and Nacho, and the gap between them guys and doing what they do and Hector doing what he does isn't so great. There isn't a massive chasm between what they do and what he does.
Exactly, and it just alluded to exactly what Clive said about getting the distance between your best players and your worst players closer, because you can't really pick between Monreal and Gibbs at the moment, and what a lovely position to be in. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of other clubs in this Premier League that would do anything to have either of them. And I thought Gibbo was absolutely fantastic. We know what Iwobi wants to do. He wants to spend his game coming inside and being intricate and playing nice passes and almost in Gibbs' pocket, Gibbs' right pocket really. And Gibbs' performance was phenomenal, wasn't it? Not just offensively, defensively as well. And the guy, he's very athletic. He's quick. He started his career as a winger. He's good in the final third. I mean, that strike was very unlucky. It was a great save, I thought. He hit it so true. And Lucas was on hand. And not just that, the intelligence of run and all that is something that, like Bellerin, at a younger age, that they were both wingers and been converted as such to fullbacks. And you can see when they go forward that they are very comfortable at that end of the park as well. And it's just, I've always been a big Gibbs fan, and he gets a lot of stick, but how can you not love the guy? We always talk about him and say, look, he's never complained, but he's not just not complaining now. He has got every right to say, look, bloody hell, come on, look at me. Like, I should be starting now. And what you said about the retention of width, I do find it very interesting that on that right side, since Gabriel's come in, like you said, with Theo up there, we're sort of almost able to say to Gabriel, look, don't get too ahead of yourself, fella. You're a centre back at right back. Just do what you're good at, and Theo will cause the problem there. And then on the other side, we had Ox at West Ham and Monreal bursting past him, and Ox was coming inside, driving, causing havoc. And we were sort of that right side was just, do you know what I mean? Theo, you do a job. You're not going to be involved much in this game, but if you stay out there, let Gabriel sit, and we'll be more solid that side, and we'll change the emphasis. And like you said, with Bella in there, it almost becomes a different dimension. And then maybe on the left, we're starting to look at being a bit more reserved. But what we saw in recent years was both fullbacks just going at the same time and no shape. And we had Flamini running around like a nutcase and it was just nothing. But now I can actually see some sort of structure to it. And I used to be so against seeing the inverted winger both sides and both fullbacks bombing on, because it just caused us so much carnage. But with the retention of width on one wing, it's not such a problem for me. And with players like Ox and Iwobi and people like that, their position is sort of inside left if they're playing on the left wing. They're not really wingers as such. So the importance of Gibbs and Monreal is massive, and I'm enjoying it. And I'm eating a lot of words about Arsenal at the moment. And I said last week I was down in the dumps after Southampton, and it was very reactionary, but I was gutted about that. And I said I was on the seesaw, and the seesaw's swinging the other way again, and I can just see, beautiful things in front of me, and I'm thinking about the treble. And last week I was thinking about finishing fifth, and I just can't make my mind up. And I just think it's stemmed from the last few years of Arsenal not getting it quite right, not having the right personnel, the tactically being a bit wrong, to this year, all of a sudden, the longer the season goes on, the more games we keep winning, the more goals we keep scoring, the performances of the players that are coming into the squad. Something's good's going on here, and Arsenal seems to have things ticking. And like Clive said, you're looking at players on the bench, they're buzzing to get on the pitch, they're itching to make an impact, they're coming in. Ox is coming in, running his bollocks off against West Ham, causing havoc. You've got Theo, who's contributed so much this season, more than we've seen him do in years. You've got players like Xhaka, who's eased his way into the team, and now he looks like you can't bloody take the bloke out. It's Xhaka and another. And all over the park, it's exciting. But with regards to the fullbacks, yeah, I'm getting a bit carried away here because I'm thinking about things, and I'm half enjoying it. But yeah, I'm sure Clive's got some opinions on Gibbo and Gabriel.
Clive,
you are allowed to enjoy it.
I know.
You haven't got to beat yourself 1,000 times to prove your loyalty and love for Arsenal.
Opus Dei.
Football is like an addition to your life. You can enjoy it. You can have a drink. You can actually watch the shapes. Mate,
really?
Don't feel guilty. Yeah, I'm honestly, mate. Give it a go. See how it feels.
Yeah, I'll try my best.
You know what?
Sorry, G, on the fullback thing, someone highlighted this to me on Twitter, actually. I can't remember his name, but I thought it was a great shout. He said to me, Clive, do you think that Wenger has switched the emphasis from right back to left back, and we're attacking much more down the left side? And I thought, that's genius, right? And so, G, you said it. When Jenkinson was playing, I just think he just said, we'll go down the side, either side. We don't really care because we can build from either side. But once Gabriel was in there, he's blocked up the right side, and he's really overloaded on the left side. And he's done this. We've had 2 games of this now, so it's interesting that Monreal was brilliant against West Ham. I mean, he was fantastic. The only thing that went wrong was really when he went to cross it, we had players on the cutback on the same line. So that's schoolboy stuff, right? So when you get to the byline, you look up, you want to see 2 different lines.
Yeah.
And we had 2 players on the same line a lot of the time. So he couldn't find anybody, right? So, and West Ham defenders, to be fair to him, were blocking off the channels. But Gibbs now, because Lucas's movement on the back post is like a striker's, he could find him, right? He could find him by hook or by crook. And so we've really overloaded that side. And we've got to say, that's a conscious decision. Right, it's been 2 games now. It's not just happened. Gibbs and Monreal are not suddenly just playing well. They are further up the pitch. Right, so again, the manager said, "Okay, I've got a straight leg centre back, right back. Who's going to block off that side, get forward maybe twice. But I'm going to really overload on the left, and I want to play Lucas as a right sider because he's a centre forward basically who's going to slot, and it could be Lucas or Theo." Maybe against Stoke, a little bit lumpy. Theo and Oxlade-Chamberlain, a bit quicker. They're going to have their day with Giroud in the middle. So who knows what's going to happen? But we've got to give him some credit.
Absolutely. Because what I wanted to say...
I'm with you, I'm getting excited, man.
What I wanted to say was the fact that we are attacking down left means that we can play someone like Lucas on the right, the inside right, who's coming in, out to in. As you saw, I think the first 3 goals were from the left, and Lucas coming in from the right. Is that right? I think his 3 goals were from the left, ostensibly.
They were.
Yeah, and him coming in from the right. And that's something that Theo would do, right?
Theo would do it, right? And what I like about Theo's game this year is that his worst game used to be a 2 out of 10. And his best game was a 9 out of 10, right? We all know he was never anywhere near a 6 or 7. His worst game's like a 6 now. And even when he has those quiet games, he always does something. He always gets a chance or a shot or a cross, or he works back. He's far more rounded, than he used to be. He used to be an absolute dead body when he wasn't having one of those hot games. Now he's part of the group, right? So, I know. I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at this not only for today, right? But I'm looking at this for Bournemouth and Crystal Palace 2 days apart, when we're going to need these boys. That played last night. I thought it was genius playing Rob Holding. I think I watched him play the under-21 game. He hadn't played for a little while. He looked very lumpy. He got the game in the EFL Cup. He looked a bit better. And he looked a bit better again. And we're going to need him to get minutes because we're going to need him over Christmas. I have no doubt about it, we're going to need him because the turnaround is so quick. Right? So I can do nothing but praise the manager about how he's rotating and how he's getting his people minutes, right? And because they're looking sharper and sharper and sharper.
I tell you what, Clive, good thing with playing Gabriel at the right back is he's getting minutes.
He's getting minutes as well.
So if we need to change Mustafi or Koscielny, God forbid, touch wood, we don't need to. He can slot in because he's not coming in wet behind the ears or rusty.
If he has to play for Mustafi of one game, right centre back, no one's going to fret, are they? No one's going to fret at all, right? So Koscielny could be our most important player. It depends how you look at football. But if he had to miss a game, we had Gabriel and we had Mustafi. I wouldn't be watching the game from behind the settee. I'll be watching it thinking we should be okay. So he's doing a good job, Wenger. You got to give him credit.
What did you make of Holding's performance, was?
Fantastic, mate. For a young lad to step into the lines there and away from home in the Champions League. What can you say? He just played the game like he had no fear in it, like he had done it 100 times before. And that's the best compliment you can give him. I just thought he looked so natural. And the one thing that really impressed me about him is when he did make the mistake for the goal, he got a bit overconfident, played a poor pass out, and then a bit slow to react, and the geezer got him behind. With the next couple of minutes, he looked a bit shaky for 2 minutes, and then he swept. It was gone. He just, do you know what I mean? It was gone out of his head. It was gone. He forgot about it, and he made the next big tackle, and he was back again. Same boy. And I was very impressed with him. Very mature performance, and I think Koscielny alongside him really helped him.
Mm.
And the kid, £2 million from Bolton, right? Playing at Bolton, and John Stones 40 odd million, whatever he went to Man City. I'm not comparing the two because that'd be silly to do. They're both young players, but I mean, come on, 20 times more money. I mean, Rob Holding, fair play to him, and let's not. I'm still a big Callum Chambers fan as well. I like Callum Chambers a lot, and I think he's doing very well. I watched him the other day. I think he's very solid at Middlesbrough. He's good on the ball. He's quick to intercept. He's quick to read the game. We've gone from years of struggling to find a decent centre back, and then when one centre back got injured, we were fucked. Like, we were proper in trouble. To now, we've got people on loan at other clubs who could just come back in and I wouldn't worry about. And we got Gabriel. I love that guy. He is a proper centre-back playing at right-back. I really like him. I like his attitude to the game. I like his no-nonsense approach. I like the fact that he's not very good at passing and he knows it. I like that he just does the simple things, and the more he plays, the better he's going to get. And he's still young. He's still learning. And people forget because he's probably, let's be honest, he's not the best looking fella in the world, and he doesn't look that young, but he is quite young.
You make a good point, because I do tend to forget about, he's only a fifth year senior. He's only a fifth year pro. He came into the game pretty late, and I forget that when I assess him sometimes. And I'm like, I think, I say he's too rash. He's this, he's that. He's not technically brilliant. He can be a bit. Sometimes I think he lets the situation get to him. He gets a bit emotive. And I do.
When you're comparing centre backs, right? The first thing I do, what I do is I look around, and Liverpool's third centre back is Lucas. Yeah. Right. So, who would you prefer? Absolutely. Right. And this is what you got to think about, right? What's the competition saying? What are they doing? Right. So, Chelsea's next centre back is this 36-year-old John Terry. Right, so we know he ain't catching nothing, but he can't catch a cold at the moment, right? So I just look around and look at Man City. I watched £35 million Otamendi get killed by Chelsea, cost City the game. I'm telling you, I would prefer Gabriel to Otamendi any day of the week, and this is what's happening. We're building a squad, and he's still raw. He's not perfect, but he's got the competencies of a real centre-half, and the more minutes he gets, the better he looks. Right? He's like lightning, and he's ferocious. And, we won a lot of trophies with Martin Keown in our team, didn't we? He wasn't beautiful. He couldn't pass it, right? He couldn't pass it. He would no left foot switches, cross-field diagonals coming from Martin Keown.
He's rash to say the least as well.
Yeah, you get him to mark somebody, then it's all over, right? It's good night, right? So yeah, again, we need those attributes in our club, and I hope Gabriel can get enough minutes so he stays at Arsenal, because I really rate him.
I love that clip of Wenger said, I'm sorry Holding didn't cost 55 million. I just love that. It's a brilliant piece of wrestling on Wenger's part.
Yeah.
Let's move towards the midfield. And what we're going to discuss here is nothing conclusive. We are not making or drawing any conclusions to what we see with our eyes, what's going on in midfield. Bottom line is we won quite handsomely. I think our passing was great. I think the positives for me coming out of midfield was the combination between them and the other players. Passing was slick. They look bright. It's a developing partnership if they continue. My only issues were sometimes I think Ramsey tries to do too much, and on Xhaka's part, he doesn't have eyes at the back of his head. He likes to pick up the ball with his back facing play, and he can get picked off. And I'd like to see him kind of eradicate that from his game. Maybe pick the ball up on the half turn, or maybe not be so high risk in taking the ball off of the goalkeeper in those situations. But that's his game because he's been doing that since Germany. I'm not drawing conclusions. At the moment, I would prefer Xhaka and Coquelin just because they're a bit more fresher. They've got more minutes. I still see a position for Ramsey. I think, as we've been talking tonight, rotation, not just rotation for rotation's sake, but we've got a group of players now that can add things to the squad and to what we're trying to do going forward, especially in this Christmas season. Was on the back of what I said and on the back of our discussion this morning on Twitter, what do you want to say in terms of what you saw last night from our midfield?
Yeah, I thought definitely, like you said, a developing partnership, and I don't think Ramsey's at full fitness. I think he's very rusty still, and do you know what I found interesting? I thought more the formation. I thought we was playing a 4-4-1-1. I thought that Ozil was up just behind Sanchez the way I saw it, and it was Xhaka and Ramsey almost a flat two. And when I watched back that second goal, Xhaka Ramsey side by side, I haven't seen that for a long time. And Xhaka picks up the ball, looks to his right, into Ramsey. Ramsey forward to Mesut, little flick round the corner, 1-2 of Alexis, brilliant through ball, bang, carved, gone. And the two central midfielders were side by side on the halfway line during that move. And that's something I did like to see. They're both big blokes. They're 6 foot plus. They're strong. And I think with regards to the partnership, it's difficult to see how it will play out at the moment. And like you said, I'd probably be going Xhaka Coquelin at home against Stoke, simply due to fitness. I think we need to ease Ramsey back in. He's only played 150 minutes at central midfield this season. We're well into the season now, and he's not even made 500 minutes yet. So we've got to appreciate that he's still going to be a bit slack. And I thought, as a pair, at the start, probably the first 10 minutes of the second half, I thought they were exceptional. And I thought that's where I really saw things happening, and we got the goal, Ramsey, the Iwobi goal, absolutely brilliant goal, and that was where Ramsey left Xhaka and went through into that space, and it did work that time. I understand what you're saying about leaving his post and all that, but I think for anyone to judge a partnership good or bad based on 70 minutes of football is pretty much impossible for any one of us to say. Yes, there was positives and there were negatives, and I thought Ramsey was well off his level. I thought he had an okay game, and I'd say okay at best. He made more tackles and interceptions than getting on the ball. He didn't seem his fluid self, apart from the sort of 10-15 minutes early in the second half. And I thought at West Ham at the weekend when he come on, I thought he looked himself. He sort of only had 25 minutes to give the burst, and I think he had enough in there. So I think I enjoyed the partnership, and I've been waiting to see that for a long time. And at the end of the day, you go away to Basel, who are notoriously good at home in the Champions League, and you're 4-0 up after 53 minutes. You can't say it was a failure. Absolutely. But you can't say that's stick or twist. And there's a lot of things I enjoyed about it. There's a lot of things that they need working on, but that will come with time. You can't just put two players that have never played together and say, there you go, boys. Like, you go and play for the rest of the season. It ain't going to work like that. And it is a developing partnership, and I'm pleased. But like I said, I still thought both of them weren't at their best. Xhaka massively grew into the game, and then I thought he was fantastic second half. But I do think this is one I want to see again, and I think there'll be other opportunities to see it. But I'm not marrying myself to Xhaka Ramsey. That's my ideal, but it doesn't mean that's what has to happen every week. So I was pleased with the performance. I thought it was okay, despite us being 4-0 up. I don't think that you can say it had a lot to do with the central midfield or either end. So it was a nice game for them, but let's see how it develops. I don't want to say too much, because when them teams come out, I had about 100 people tweeting me, "It's your time now. It's your next on the line here, you're in trouble here, mate, if it goes wrong." So thankfully, no matter how they play, we were 4-0 up after 53 minutes, so I couldn't get too many goals, but I weren't expecting.
I tweeted out, "Oh, this is it, Xhaka Ramsey." I'm thinking of one fan and one fan in particular. I got about 30,000 replies saying, "I wonder who that is." Right? I did. I mean, I want to be a bit bigger than picking apart games, right? And I've got my theories on midfield, but it depends on so much more than just the two. It depends on who we play out wide and who we play at centre forward. I think when I looked at the game last night, if I have a worry, I have a couple of worries, and it isn't Ramsey, funny enough, because I see some things like Ramsey. I'll come back to in a minute. If I look at the midfield as a group, my worry is Xhaka's doing so well. He's now stepping away in that position. He's now really, in my opinion, he's showing everybody how good he is.
It's him and one other, isn't it? Or it's him and whoever.
He's just exploding right in front of our eyes. And, you know, if you I think he lacked a little bit of what I call physical intensity to do the doggies across the pitch, to do multiple challenges so he can retain it and move it. I think, the fact he's not started many games, it wouldn't surprise me if Wenger's had him in the gym and doing the work and doing the short, sharp work. He's looking sharper. He's getting to the pitch of the ball. He got caught once yesterday. He did one of those crazy tackles, got away with it. There's a bit of advantage. The moment he's not at it, he then reacts in a semi-violent way because he doesn't want anyone to get past him. That's all to do with positioning, fitness, intensity. And since, since he got sent off, he's been really good at that. So, my worry is he's so good that I can barely imagine a team without him, because no one else can do what he does. I'm looking at Iwobi on the left-hand side. I'm looking at him. I'm seeing a player just trying so hard to be perfect in possession. He stopped receiving the ball on the half turn. He's now receiving the ball closed. So his passing options are difficult. So he's having to do some shakes and baits to get off the spot. He's stopping the ball. My theory, G, if you stop the ball, you're a target for the tackle. As soon as you stop it, you're giving advantage to the defence. You're saying to people, come and close, get on the prowl, move 5 yards forward. I can not only press you, I'm going to press all your passing options. Right?
That's because he's not. He doesn't have. He's lacking self-belief now, isn't he?
He's just trying. He's trying so hard. So here it is. It's coming to me. I've got to stop it. I want to control it. Whereas before, it was just flowing through him.
Yeah.
It was just flowing through him. On the, that Ramble does it sometimes. That half-turn spin. Ozil does it all the time. They take it on the move. They spin away and continue the flow. He's just receiving the ball in a closed way because he doesn't want to lose it. He's looking at his numbers and he's thinking, okay, things are breaking down on me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run around a lot and I'm going to try and get in position and offer myself to my teammates. But I've forgotten to think about my body position. I've stopped thinking about my next pass. So now I'm suddenly looking 50-50. But I'm not letting the team down. He's probably working harder defensively than he did when he was flowing because he now knows maybe things are not flowing through me. So I can't let the left back down, right? So I'm finding out from a unit perspective, our left side's working quite well. So Iwobi's closed himself up a little bit, and he'd have to work his way through that until his flow comes back. And Ramsey, I can see a player in Ramsey really trying, and I agree with Woz, right? I actually was really quite impressed with him at West Ham. I thought the movement of his passes was much quicker. My theory with him is I think he pirouettes too much. He slows things down. He just needs to move it. And when he moves it, he's a good footballer. It doesn't have to be about him. Just move the football. And against West Ham, I thought he was really good. And he could have scored a goal. A bit unlucky. He just got a bit excited and got himself in front of Ozil and nearly scored. I just think I can see a player trying. And when I see a player not trying and not thinking about the team, then I become more critical. When I see a player with the intent to try and join in and make things work for the whole group, I throw away my preconceptions completely. I thought last night he started the game a little bit sloppily. Again, he was trying too hard. He tried a few square passes that got cut out. He wasn't accurate. And what Ozil did was really smart. Ozil then came deep. And he gave him easy targets. And that's why I love that guy. He sees his mate under stress. He said, I'm not going to stay high. I'm going to come in the centre of the pitch so you can find me with 5-yard passes. As soon as Ramsey settled down and got his movement back, Ozil then went high. And these are little things you've got to watch and notice for, right? And that's what makes a team. That's why I'm really hopeful about this group. They could see we weren't connecting. And Ozil and Alexis came deeper and made themselves easily available so we can continue to play. As soon as them two then crept up the pitch, they started to combine. Bang, 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 we're in 2 goals. Thank you very much. Half-time oranges, right? So I don't think, I have me and Woz disagree on how much we rate him. Woz really rates him highly. I rate him. And that's where we disagree slightly, and I'm totally with him when he says I'm not married to any central partnership. How can we talk about rotation, how well it's gone, if you marry yourself to one partnership playing every single week? It just won't work, right? So, but my worry is that Xhaka's doing so well, I can barely imagine a team without him, and so we've really got to find a skill set so he can have a break every now and again, because he's exploding right in front of our eyes.
Talking about exploding in front of our eyes, let's talk about Alexis and Ozil. I mean, I saw something that Alexis said I think it was last month in an interview, and they asked him, who's his favourite teammate, and I think he said, I get on with everyone, but I get on best with Ozil. When we're playing, we don't even have to talk to each other. We don't need to say anything. It's just a glance, and one knows where the other is. And you can see that. I mean, people that talk about stat sheets and whatnot, you'll see from their passing combinations, they pass to each other most out of everybody. They trust each other. But on the field, if you just use your eyes, you can tell that these guys love playing with each other. They're on a different wavelength to everybody else. I mean, everyone's on a wavelength, and then them two are just on a different plane. What do you think, Roz?
We're just so lucky, mate. We are so lucky, and at the moment it's Alexis who's doing everything visual, and it's absolutely fantastic. But the work between the two of them, the telepathy, it's just frightening to watch two players of this ability who are individually phenomenal. But the reason they're so good is because the way they play with others, and just the goals, just even looking at the goals, it was just ridiculous. Every goal, the Iwobi goal, the way Alexis looks up and he sees his mate Mesut running in behind, I'll just clip one over the top, no bother. Then you got the 1-2, Ozil knows, he flicks it round the corner. Alexis knows where that pass is going into Gibbs before he's even played the ball back to Ozil. They're just two players that make the game look so easy, and they're very different in the way they play the game, but they're very similar in the way they think about the game, and that's what helps them so much. And if we can keep them fit, I mean, my God, if we keep them two fit, the sky's the limit. I genuinely do fancy us against any side out there with them two in the team, because they're special footballers. They're coming to the peaks of their careers. Forget about what they've done in the past. This is them now. This is them reaching their maximum levels, and fit, not just fitness, their physical attributes. We are so lucky, and I don't think we realise how lucky we are, and we're blessed with people like Bergkamp and Henry, and this really is the best two players, I feel, that we have had since the Invincibles, and we've had people like Van Persie and that, but I look at them two men, what they're doing for this side, and Clive said it brilliantly when when Mesut starts coming shorter to get the ball off Ramsey to make him feel comfortable. And funnily enough, that goal with a 1-2, the second goal, the phenomenal through ball from Ozil, he come deeper to get the ball off of Ramsey, but Alexis is already in a position. And I remembered at the time, Martin Keown was on the commentary, and literally, as he said that, he literally said, this is where Alexis needs to be on the shoulder of the last man a bit more often. Yeah. And then Ozil flicked it into Alexis, 1-2, flicked it through, gone, crossed in. Lucas Perez was the man coming into the area that Martin Keown thought that Alexis should be. And that's the beauty of the way we're playing at the moment. The fluidity, everything runs through them two men. Everything. Whether it's the first ball, whether it's a secondary pass before the assist, whatever it is, them two are involved. And the day we score a goal without them two involved, I'll be shocked. But we're so lucky. We are so lucky, and I'm so excited at the moment, and I can't help but smile. But Stoke is going to be a big test. They're big, horrible bastards. They're going to try and boot us. But I just think that them two, and the way we're playing at the moment, we're going to steamroll them. I think we're going to just play let the ball do the work, and they're gone. But God, I'm enjoying this at the moment, mate.
Clive says opposites attract, and
sorry, mate, go ahead.
And I also want to discuss how they both have changed the way they played this season to make this team look better.
Well, all we've done is put them closer together, right? So, and you got to sit back and breathe. And sometimes the best things in life are the simplest things, right? So, our two record signings, we've had one on the left running up and down, chasing fullbacks, and the other one in the middle with, playing with Giroud. He can find him, slower target. He plays, Ozil can get on the wavelength of anybody, but he needs somebody more agile. We should only have to look at what he had around him at Madrid. He had agile forwards in Benzema and Ronaldo, quick one-touch movers. it sort of feels very obvious now. If you could be ultra critical, why wasn't this done, say, a year ago? But the way I look at these two, it is a wavelength thing, and in the modern game where physicality and sports science dominate and speed and pace and power, you can't be intelligence and what I call intelligence agility and speed agility, right? And those two have got it. If anything, and I saw some pictures flying around on Twitter with, one side Omri and Bergkamp and the other side Ozil and Sanchez. But if anything, if you look at the competencies of the players, they are closer to Fabregas and Van Persie, right? So I think Van Persie was a very twisting, turning power shooter forward, right? Who was a winger that was moved into the centre. Didn't quite have the pace, but when he received the ball, he had 15 tricks in his locker, right? And Fabregas moved from quarterback to being a number 10, and he was the one that facilitated it. He had the vision, he had the pace of pass. And I think if you want to compare the two, and I do actually think these two are better, that's the two I compare them to. We had 1 year of that, I think, 1 or 2 years that maximum, and then it sort of fell away. So I think it's very important with those two. They have certain competencies, but they lack others. They lack what Theo has. They lack what Lucas has. They lack what Danny Welbeck has. And that is, and Oxlade-Chamberlain, and that is weight, power, repeat runs, the ability to come around and connect from long distances. It's very important that those two are the brain of the team, but they must have speed and power and the ability to travel around them, the threat. Because that threat, Theo Walcott could be having a 6 out of 10 game, but that threat of him running in behind creates the yard so Alexis can turn, so he can connect with other people. It's very important we have that, and it can't just be Theo. It's got to be Lucas. It's when Danny Welbeck comes back, it's got to be him. And what Oxlade-Chamberlain did against West Ham was really encouraging because he found a way to contribute as well. So I think the combination of those two is great, but how we support them is equally important, and it can't just be Theo Walcott for 60 games. It just won't work. So yeah, I'm encouraged.
People were saying that we need to chip in more goals from midfield. So one of the 3 or 4, at least one of Xhaka, Ramsey, Elneny, Coquelin, whoever else you want to put in there has to score goals. But when I look at it, I'm thinking, well, we scored 37 goals in the league. I know we're top league goal scorers in Premier League. I think we're 4th around Europe. Of the top 5 leagues, we're 4th, the 4th highest scorers in our leagues around Europe. Wenger said, he really lamented our profligacy last season, and it seems like he's worked on it. He's furrowed his brow. He's tried to get Lacazette. He's tried to get Vardy and whatnot, and so on and so forth. And he's settled upon what he has now, and we are, as it stands, I think we are light years ahead of what we were last season. So whether it's just because of them two and where the Wenger's playing them now as opposed to where they were playing last season, or whether it's the support around them, something's definitely clicked, something's definitely worked. But do you feel that do you also feel that we need more goals from the centre of the park, Clive, or are you happy with how things are?
I was chatting to Jane today online, weren't we? And Jane was sort of looking ahead, and she was sort of saying, yeah, we're going to need those sort of goals. And she's probably right, because football changes all the time, right? So, don't think for a second that Stoke have not been watching what we've done in Europe. Do you think they're going to give us the freedom of the park? And me and Will discuss about third man running, and I always say, well, do we need it? There's going to be a game when we actually are going to need another person coming in, unmarked, from distance, untracked. So the fortunate thing is we have that player. We have those players that want to do that. So I think having the options is really important. I don't think right now we can say we need more goals. I just don't think we need more goals. I mean, we scored the most goals. Everything's good right now. But, we're looking at, games coming up, a real quick succession of games. You've got Stoke, Everton, City, West Brom, Palace, Bournemouth. That's all before January the 3rd, right? So we're going to need something else at some point during that string of games, right? So eventually somebody from midfield might have to do something to break a game open. It could be 0-0. So I don't think it's a top thing in my mind, G, but at some point when the season gets tight later in the year, when we've got teams trying to hang on for a point at home, we might need something else in midfield, right? And then that's when what's his mate may suddenly become critical, So that's why my mind is really open.
Okay, let's go move on to listeners' questions because we're coming towards the end of the podcast. Was going to start with you. Got one question here from @SZ_Gooner. Says, is Ramsey really that good with Xhaka in the middle? Too early to say, isn't it? I mean, we want it to be. We want it to be, but it's too early, right? Was
too early, mate. Too early. We can't dismiss it. We can't applaud it. We'll wait. Let's wait to see what happens.
Indeed. Clive, message from @Gooner1947. That's Peter. He says, the team's thoughts on dear departed Brian Clough's statement, formations don't win games, players do.
Yeah, well, you know what, G? As that game started, I actually said something out and I went, you know what, just forget the numbers on the shirts because I can't keep up with this rotation. And it felt so much like that. It was really wonderful to watch how we started the game. We started the game controlling across the back line. Then we just started to rotate. And I'm looking for partnerships, right? I really am. I'm looking for see who's where, who's what. And I couldn't find anything. And then we scored a goal. And then we built on that. And then we started to settle into a bit more of a shape. I do think having the same technical wavelength is important. Having the same philosophy of how we play is important. I am a fan of a much more of a team ethic than an individual superstar ethic, because you can replace people in that type of in structure. So Pete's right, of course. You do your job. No one cares about the formation, right? Do your job and execute, and we're doing that right now.
Got another question here from @Michael Illett, and he says, did Perez's performance from the right-hand side suggest that Walcott isn't a shoo-in and Perez could start there?
Very promising. We've also got another young lad, Oxlade-Chamberlain, as well, who's knocking at the door. And Walcott can't play 60 games, like Clive said, and Perez, if he's going to come in, a lot. What I did enjoy about Lucas Perez is the similarities between Perez in a sense that I think Walcott retained his width a lot more, but they're both almost a forward in a wide man's area, and they're goal scorers, and they want to get in the right areas. And Walcott's done that brilliantly all season. We saw the goal against Chelsea, his movement in behind, getting into the tap-ins. And people go, oh, he only scores tap-ins, like Clive said. Yeah, but hang on a minute. That's because he's made that run, he's made that space, he's created that angle, and he's made that tap-in. And it's not a coincidence that you see Lucas Perez on the back post twice there. It's his movement, and there's going to be a lot of games for Lucas Perez, and like Clive said, through the Christmas period and into January, we've got a hell of a lot of fixtures. We've got even games like Preston. It's not going to be easy, but that's a perfect game for someone like Lucas to come in and say, look, I've done it at Basel and I'm here again. You can't ignore me much longer. So there's a place for not just Perez and Walcott, everyone in this team, everyone. Oxlade-Chamberlain in every position. We've got people chomping at the bit. There's people on the bench who can't wait to get on. It's just lovely to see at the moment throughout the squad. And touch wood, we're going all right with regards to injuries. He seems to be keeping people fit, and it keeps rolling. So definitely, I was pleased with Lucas, but for me, Theo is still probably my first choice at the moment. But every game, you're gonna need something different. And if you're bringing a player on late in the game, I ain't worried about Lucas Perez coming on. Don't worry about that. He's definitely going to do something.
Indeed. Red Action today said that they're doing a banner, a special kind of banner with I think something to do with Alexis' dogs, Atom and Humber, on the banner for Saturday's game at Stoke doing their little bit to try and make him sign a new contract. I mean, you see. Judging by, if you're reading between the lines of what's been said in the press and what Wenger's saying, and obviously looking at what players like Pogba and Rooney and Zlatan get and Yaya Toure get. You can't blame them if they do want parity with these kind of players. You can't blame them for wanting that. They're young men, they're at the peak of their careers, they can go to any top club and probably get what they feel they deserve. Are you worried, Clive, about the Alexis situation? And do you feel the club should invest in them? Because to be honest, I was chatting to one guy, his name is Strasbourg in Forza, he's a finance guy. I asked him a question about, how much it would cost us to improve their contracts. And he said it's 7% of our budget. It's 7%, and you're talking 13 million. That's way less than what it would cost to actually buy a new superstar striker or number 10 and then pay them that money. Makes sense, doesn't it, Clive?
Yeah, it makes sense. Right? And this is the fear of a fan, right? So we've been talking for an hour now. Have any of us mentioned that our two superstars looked unhappy at any point?
Absolutely.
Your eyes are telling you that they have not. They're probably playing the best football of their careers. So why do you think they're going to walk away from that and go to China? It's just not happening. It's just, you look at their finance in the Premier League. It's murdering Germany. They're squealing over there. They're squealing in Spain because they can see the gap shortening. In 2-3 years' time, let's see who's in the Champions League semi-final, shall we? Because our money's only going to increase, and if we buy smartly and don't get robbed by silly purchases from abroad, we're going to have a much deeper squad across our top 6 clubs, and we're going to dominate the Champions League. And the Italians and the Germans and the Spanish and the French, they know it, right? So the days when we thought that Ozil was going to go at PSG, why is he going to do that? It's just not going to happen. So I think Arsenal got to do their work. They've got to make sure they commit, and I firmly believe that they will commit. And they both look like they're enjoying their football and they're part of something. They're leading something. They could all, Real Madrid and Barcelona are always there, but I just don't feel it this time. I think the financial dynamics of the world game has changed to a point where we can keep them. In the days when Thierry Henry turns up on TV, in the new camp, I just think they're over, right? Well, I hope so. If they're not, then why have we moved stadiums why have we done what we've done for so many years if we can't keep hold of these people, right? So it will be a damning indictment on the last sort of 6 years or so for definite. So I think Arsenal have to do it, otherwise there could be uproar.
Wenger recently said that he doesn't believe a player should earn the same amount of money as a manager. Apparently Wenger earns about 160k a week. Is he going to have to swallow his pride and allow them to overtake him if that's what it takes to stay, to keep him?
Yes. No two ways about it. I mean, I like his way of thinking, Arsene, but I don't know. It's just not doable in the modern game, mate. If we're honest, is it? It's just not doable. I mean, the player power will win. And we have to give, like Clive said, if we're serious about being the club that we've been preaching about becoming over the last sort of since the Emirates move and all the wheels got in motion, even right back since when we went to Wembley to start in the Champions League, to have a few games there. And yeah, look, we've come a long way, and it's all under Arsenal's leadership. But I'm sorry, mate, if you're not going to offer him more money just because you think the manager did that, bollocks, it's not happening. I think he's just saying that. I don't think he'd ever enforce that at the club, to be honest with you.
If anything, G, you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking that they're negotiating with them. They want to keep their money at a sensible rate because obviously people are going to knock the door. I mean, there's rumours of Koscielny being on 70 grand a week. That's a bigger issue for me. And if Arsenal want to build on this squad, they've got to make sure there's finances available for them to give them the people so we can fulfil their careers. I think that's the conversation that's going on. It's not just about paying them. If Arsenal want to pay them 300 grand a week, they could do it. But they want to buy them one for 2 years. All right. And that's what we don't want to be in that situation because we bought well in the summer and we want to build on that. There's a couple of gaps in the squad. We all know where they are. We want to build on those gaps, so we can compete at the very, very top table. And so that's the balancing act for those guys. How much do they demand versus allowing the club to build, to give them the players to support their careers?
Indeed, interesting. I did send a tweet out asking people, asking people suggestions and the best way to use the dogs as leverage to make Alexis sign the thing. Got a couple of answers. One from @91 L Will says, just thinking about the greyhound thing in Ireland, maybe kidnap them and hold them to ransom. And Jacques says, I don't know if there must have been some sort of.
What are we doing? Why are we talking about dogs? What's going on? I want to talk about overloads at fullback. What are we talking about dogs for?
Just a light-hearted end to the conversation. And Gregor. Gregor93 says, bin.
Got rid of our dogs. It's called Flamini. We got rid of him. Let's move on.
Yeah, I've had enough of watching that dog run around for enough.
Trying to catch a bone.
All right.
Chasing the wrong ball about.
All right.
Enough.
All right. So, Saturday, Clive prediction.
I reckon I'm only being influenced by Adrian Clark, actually. I don't think Stoke has conceded more than one goal for about 7 games or something silly like that. So I think it's going to be a really tight, ugly, horrible, nerve-wracking game. We're going to win 1-0, hopefully.
We got a swagger back, mate. 4-0 Arsenal.
4-0.
I hate Stoke. I'll tell you why. They have been in very good form, Stoke, but I just think there's a bit of angst and a bit of history between us, recent history, and we know that, and I think we're going to be bang up for that, and we got the men to deal with the physical approach this time, and once we get one, we're gone. We're gone, mate. I'm really confident and I'm looking forward to it.
Coolio. All right. So anything from 1-0 to a hiding. That's been a Gooner Ramble podcast. I've been your host, Giles. You've been listening to Woz and Clive. And as I said at the beginning of the show, I really do hope that our Gooners that are stranded out in Basel make it home in one piece. Our thoughts and our condolences go out to the families and loved ones of those in Pakistan and in Basel that lost their lives. Join us again on the weekend as we review the Stoke City game. And catch us on all the platforms as per usual: YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, the site www.goonerramble.com, as well as other platforms. Thank you for listening. This has been a Gooner Ramble podcast.
Do you require any graphic design work done? A North London agency full of Gooners. Oh, and one lonely Watford fan. We'll be happy to help. Go to www.stonecreativedesign.com and mention Gooner Ramble for a 10% discount on your first project.